Today, let's talk about the Cambridge Audio Alva ST turntable. I purchased the Alva ST about a year ago with a few criteria in mind, and that was usability and upgradability. This turntable right here, as opposed to the version 1 of the Cambridge, which came out around 2016-2017, has the detachable head shell. It has a defeatable preamp, so I can choose to turn that off and use my own preamp. And you can also disable the Bluetooth feature, which I personally don't use. And finally, I was looking for a turntable with a belt drive system as opposed to the TT's direct drive system. The belt drive system is decoupled from the chassis, so it gets less movement. That's just a style that I like. If you like a direct drive that starts instantly, it has a little more torque, that's great. I personally prefer the quiet noise that a belt drive system would give you. And in this package, very well built, coming in a little bit over 16 pounds for the unit. I have no issue with any vibration, so it works awesome. The TT version 2 does come in around a little bit over 20 pounds, so it gives you a little more mass, but this platter and plinth combination is wonderful. And of course, there are the aesthetics. This unit to me is subjectively beautiful, and I love the styling of it. As for sound quality, first I tested the unit in its stock form with its stock needle using the built-in preamp, going through a Jungsong JA1 preamp that I have modded with some Viborg copper XLRs and AudioNote silver RCAs. Then the signal goes over to a pair of Iota VX PA3 power amps in monoblock mode. I tested the sound on two different speakers, first on a pair of GR Research XLS Encores, which sounded beautifully, and then we stepped it up a level on a pair of custom three-way speakers with an open baffle mid-range based on a Joseph Crow design. Now, does cover on or off? We'll get to that question later on. First, I tested with the pre-installed Audio-Technica cartridge, which is a AT-VM95E, which is a good entry-level cartridge by all means. It does everything well. Nice amount of bass, nice amount of clarity, and a nice amount of detail. So a great out-of-the-box experience. Now I'm going to do a slightly controversial comparison, but please take in mind this is only what I heard out of my system with my speakers in my room. So your mileage will vary. This is just what I heard. Comparing the vinyl playback to the same song on my digital source, which is a Cambridge Audio 851N streamer, and be aware that mixing for vinyl and mixing for digital is a bit different. I will tell you that the digital did have quite a bit more detail and more punch in the bass. The Audio-Technica cartridge did take off that digital glare that's slightly there, but I would say in comparison, the soundstage on the digital, the 851N, was quite a bit wider. When I played the same track on the Cambridge turntable, my soundstage was coming right to the edge of the speakers. And this is with the speakers 8 feet apart, about 4 feet from the wall, and this is myself sitting 8 feet in front and in the middle of both speakers. When I switched over to the same track out of the 851N streamer, I get about 3 feet outside of the speaker on both sides. So much wider and more layers of soundstage going on back behind the speakers. So all in all, a much more pleasant experience. However, you did get that little digital glare coming out of the streamer that you tend to not have on the analog sources. Between the two, I frankly prefer the sound of the digital stream. Now here's where things get very interesting and fun. Once we start doing a few upgrades to the Cambridge ST. I tried a few upgrades. The first upgrade was switching the power supply from the stock 12 volt to an i5 iPower X. Extremely clean power coming out of that one, very, very small variations into the turntable. So I don't know if it's because the built-in preamp is already super quiet with great power filtering internally, but I got literally zero differences going to a upgraded power supply in this case. I know a lot of times on digital sources you'll see more of a difference. That is also another reason I chose the 851N streamer versus Cambridge's newer CXN V2. The CXN V2 does have a switch mode power supply built in as opposed to the linear power supply in the 851, and I'll tell you, by doing side-to-side comparisons on that, the 851 is the way to go if you can still get it. I think it might be getting discontinued though. In this case though, with the turntable, I heard absolutely no difference. I would pass on that and stick with the regular power supply, but I will tell you, when you have better regulated power, you will get more longevity out of any electronic components. Electronics love clean power. The next upgrade was a quick email to Cambridge Audio to confirm that a 250 gram record weight wouldn't stress the motors. Cambridge replied and let me know it was a non-issue. So we have a 250-gram record weight that definitely helps flatten out your record and give you a little better bass response. So I definitely recommend upgrading to a record weight. Don't go too heavy. I definitely consult with Cambridge Audio to see what their max limit would be, but 8 ounces, pretty good. Now we'll get into the big upgrade. Moving up from the Audio Technica into a Ortofon 2M Black with solid silver wires from ConnectX over at Parts Connection. Now we have some differences. I set this cartridge at 1.6 grams. We get quite a bit more voltage out of the 2M Black and a ton more detail. So now once we switch over to this guy, automatically that soundstage that disappeared came back into play. Now it still wasn't quite as large as the digital. With my eye closed and Visualite by arm, once I opened up, I was looking at about 2.5 feet outside of the speaker edges. So that soundstage opened up very, very nice. Now we had some bass coming in. Bass sounded beautiful. Even more detail came out of those grooves, and the highs were there, not shrill at all. Super fun to listen to. So all the best parts of my digital setup without that digital glare. So now it's a dream. Wonderful setup once you get these upgrades in play. Now, of course, this is a pricey needle. So now we're going into the territory of the TT turntable. You might want to go that route, but remember now you're into the moving coil setup. And now if you want to try something different like a moving magnet, you also have to purchase a preamp. One thing Cambridge should think about is on the ST, you get the moving magnet preamp, and on the TT, you get the moving coil. But it'd be wonderful if maybe in version 3, they put a selector switch so you can select moving coil or moving magnet on both of these units. It would make it much more flexible, because honestly, I won't be getting a phono preamp for this guy. The phono preamp is dead quiet. I hear nothing. When there's no music playing, it is silent. It sounds wonderful. And now about the dust cover. A couple of different school of thoughts. And again, there's not one perfect solution for everything, but my suggestion is, if you're sticking with the Audio Technica, remove the dust cover. Just take it on off. You'll have less chance of anything vibrating and bringing in sound into your turntable. However, with the 2M Black, that stylus hates dust. So any little particle is gonna give you some unwanted pops that, are no fun. So in that case, I much rather leave the case on and worry about any possible internal vibrations than to have any specks of dust getting on that needle and disrupting your whole enjoyment of the vinyl experience. And definitely don't play anything with the cover up, as this is basically just the antenna for vibration. Anything that vibrates in the room will be heard. So either down or off, never up on this guy here. Now I personally don't listen to my vinyl at any high volumes higher than 75 to 80 decibels. So I have no issue with this guy turned on. Most of the time it's much quieter than that. If I have a party with plenty of guests and I'm cranking the system up, I'm going to the digital system to stream music. And if a guest might say, hey Rick, let's play an album, I'm definitely not letting them play with the 2M Black. I'm switching to the Audio Technica in that instance anyways. I had a DJ friend come over once and hand needle drop with the tone arm onto the record, and I cringed. These hi-fi cartridges are not DJ cartridge. These are not Ortofon Concords. Those styluses are very, very delicate, and if you bring it down by hand, you can snap off that cantilever. So please always use the cueing lever on these guys, never by hand. All in all, the Cambridge Audio Alva ST is an incredible buy if you want a belt-driven table with a built-in preamp and you're okay with upgrading the cartridge later on. As for the albums I tested with, I started with the Arctic Monkeys. Do you want to know? The strings and the vocals, beautiful. With Kendrick, it sounded like he was talking to me in my room. And then we get into the Chris Stapleton. Starting over, beautifully recorded, pressed and mastered. No complaints here. Cold, sounded insane. Here's we came across a problem. The Traveler by Chris Stapleton. This has to be the worst recorded album that I own. Very disappointing when I purchased it. Now, great music, but the quality of this pressing, no good. I have zero soundstage, zero width, dynamics are poor when you're with the Audio Technica. Now when I'm playing Tennessee Whiskey over with the 2M Black, now it comes to life. So on a poor pressing, that's where that upgraded cartridge will make the main difference. Now it's bearable, I guess, to listen to. Before I would just pass on this guy and go straight to stream, but with the 2M Black, we're looking good now. So once again, I'm super pleased with the Cambridge Audio Turntable. I think it's a wonderful buy. I highly recommend it to anybody. If you're in the LA area, send me a DM and maybe we can make some time for you to come demo it at my place. So we'll see you next time.